Let's head back to Nevada now and what we can expect when voters have their say. I'm joined by CNN's reporter Dianne Gallagher. Good morning to you, Dianne. Before we start talking about the polls, which are underway in about an hour, I believe we've got some live vision to show our viewers of Joe Biden. Let's pull that up there. So, yes, Dianne, Joe Biden initially a front runner, but he's certainly been struggling in the polls lately. How do you think he will go today?
You know, Janie, the interesting thing is in Nevada, because it is a caucus, it can be difficult to predict. And they've had a pretty limited number of polls that have been done here. So we are in the West. It's a bit like the wild, wild West here. Anything could happen. But the polling we have had does indicate that Bernie Sanders has a pretty strong lead. Now, the Biden camp has stayed on the ground here. They're hoping to have a good showing because the former vice president has indicated that his problem in the first two states of Iowa and New Hampshire was the lack of diversity. Well, there's no problem with diversity in Nevada. We have a large Latino contingency here in the state. This is the type of voter that the former vice president has said he needs to do well. And so he's kind of set himself up here a little bit to these expectations. But again, caucuses are very difficult to predict.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to watch. And as I just mentioned, the polls are opening in just under an hour. It's a chilly 11 degrees where you are. How is the vibe, Dianne?
The good news for me is that I'm inside right now. We're in Las Vegas. We're in this filing kind of area where the Nevada Democrats are holed up doing their tabulations. The people who are outside, though, this is not the type of weather they're used to. It's raining. I mean, it is pouring in some of these places. And so to let you know, this entire week it's been sunny. Some days a little bit chilly, but for the most part, the weather has been beautiful. This is unusual. The Nevada Democrats believe that a large swath of the voters did this early voting period. We're talking nearly 75,000 people cast these early caucus votes. It's the first time any state has ever attempted to do early voting for a caucus. So we'll see how that turns out. But potentially that could kind of be that buffer to where the weather or the temperature or just the weird hours that a lot of people here in Nevada keep would affect their caucus turnout.
Yeah, it could be a smart move by those 75,000 early voters. We're just seeing on screen now some live shots of Pete Buttigieg. He's got a bit of a narrow lead, doesn't he, with, well, the front one of the favourite perhaps, Bernie Sanders, which we'll talk about shortly. But, yes, seeing on screen Pete Buttigieg at the moment.
Yeah, and Pete Buttigieg kind of, in a lot of cases, seemed to come out of nowhere for American voters. He's the mayor of a small city in Indiana. He came in, we're still waiting on those official results in Iowa, but at this point he does lead with the unofficial results coming out in those delegates from Iowa. He did well in New Hampshire and seems to have a pretty good ground game here in Nevada. A good showing from Pete Buttigieg would definitely make him look like the centrist option compared to the much more liberal leftist Bernie Sanders.
Let's talk about Bernie Sanders. He is expected to do very well in Nevada. What are you hearing?
He is, and a lot of it is that ground game that he has here. The senator from Vermont has a large organization on the ground, very good at what they do, very good at getting the word out, making sure that their voters are either early caucusing or coming out today. We've run into a lot of those Sanders supporters who have been active on the ground here, but he's also benefiting from doing so well in Iowa and in New Hampshire. And so there's kind of that snowball that starts running for people who maybe liked him before, but they didn't think he was going to be electable. Well, now he's come out either tied or on top in the first two. And so here in Nevada, people who may have been a little about him might not feel as weird caucusing for him. Also, there's that really important second choice or third choice, that if your first choice happens to be, say, Senator Amy Klobuchar, and she's not viable in the first round, you may feel more comfortable putting Bernie Sanders there because you think he is going to go ahead and be able to be viable and go on as a candidate who wins your precinct. So there is a lot of stock that can be put in how well he's done. He's leading in the polls right now. He's taking that moment and he's running with it, and his ground game is showing that it works here in Nevada right now.
And Dianne, we're hearing that US intelligence believes that Russia is trying to aid Bernie Sanders. Donald Trump has tweeted about this, saying, be careful of Russia, according to Adam Schiff. They are pushing for Bernie Sanders to win. We can see the tweet on screen at the moment.
Yeah, and the president leaves out there that also, according to some of those same intelligence sources, Russia also is attempting to help him as well. They also like the president, just as intelligence officials said happened in 2016. Now, the Sanders campaign was apparently briefed on this last month, that Russia may be trying to assist his campaign with some of their disinformation tactics, similar to what we're told they used in 2016. The president also potentially a beneficiary of those tactics, according to intelligence officials. The Sanders camp speaking on it yesterday, basically saying, you know, we don't want any part of this, but we want people to know this. Again, they were briefed last month, though. So this came out after the Washington Post initially had some sources who told them about that briefing, and the Sanders camp made a comment afterward, essentially disavowing it and also saying we want a fair election. We don't want Russia involved in this, and we don't want people to be fooled by this kind of disinformation tactic.
No president has actually held rallies in the same area as the same time where Democrats are holding caucuses. What do you think Donald Trump is gaining from this approach, Dianne?
Look, the president of the United States is very good at stealing the spotlight, no matter where he goes. President Trump tends to hold these rallies in states where he has a lot of support, but he also likes to steal that spotlight from the Democrats here. He did not win Nevada in 2016. And in fact, Nevada saw more Democrats in office in 2018. So coming in here and kind of feeling the love from his supporters is a way for him to be able to try and A, take the attention off the Democrats here, and B, kind of try to rattle them as well. Look at my big crowds. Look at what I have. The president is an expert in sucking the air out of the room, so nobody else has the ability to make headlines. And that's exactly what he's doing here. It's a tactic he used in 2016 when he was running for president. Obviously, that worked well for him. And it appears that he's going to do the same tactic as the sitting president of the United States, running again here in 2020. If he can take the headlines, the president said in the past when he was a private businessman that no headline is a bad headline. You want people to be talking about you. It appears that his tactics are going to be similar this time around.
And a bit of maths here. Disclosure is revealing that Michael Bloomberg, who's not running in Nevada, we've got to wait for Super Tuesday obviously, spent $221 million in January alone. So if we compare that to Bernie Sanders, who raised $25 million, the average voter putting forward $18, an interesting comparison, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I think the candidates would say the same. In fact, they have. On the debate stage, for example, Mayor Pete Buttigieg was asked, do you think that Michael Bloomberg is trying to buy the nomination? And he said, yeah, I do. And that's because none of these other candidates have that kind of money at their fingertips. Even Tom Steyer, who is a businessman and a fellow billionaire to Michael Bloomberg. He doesn't have that kind of cash, or he hasn't thrown that kind of cash around here. Now, Michael Bloomberg getting in so late also lets him avoid really testing how this works for him. At this point, up until the debate in Nevada, most of America only knew him from these carefully curated ads that he has spent more than $200 million on, letting people kind of get this perfect image of him that he wants them to have before he finally gets in and puts his toe in Super Tuesday. So having that ability to not participate in this puts him at a delegate disadvantage, but it also prevents him from getting beat up, getting those bad headlines if he does poorly in a state that they thought he was going to do well in, like Senator Elizabeth Warren in New Hampshire. So he isn't having to deal with those same kind of things that a normal candidate would have to deal with, while bolstering his reputation to voters outside of New York City who don't know much about him through these ads.
Yeah, it's an interesting tactic coming in late, isn't it? A lot of people saying that it's backfiring, a lot of people saying that it's a smart move. We'll have to wait for the next few months and see what's going to happen there. But finally, Dianne, here in Australia, we have what's called a democracy sausage. It's a tradition at polling booths. What's the food of choice for you in Nevada there?
That's amazing, first of all. Secondly, right now, I would say it's coffee. It's been a very, very long 3 weeks since the situation in Iowa, which was forced everything to be different here in Nevada. But the cool thing is where we are right now, we're in Las Vegas. We have chefs from around the world, these renowned chefs from around the world who have all these amazing restaurants. You have food that you can get with any type of culture, any type of ethnicity, any type of flavor you really want. And so much is open 24 hours a day here. But since we're in Vegas, Janie, to be honest, I don't know if it's an election day, caucus day food. It might be a game. Pick your poison here. Do you want to play blackjack? Do you want to play craps? What do you want to do to kind of take the edge off after we're all done caucusing and can hopefully sleep well if we get results tonight?
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. CNN's Dianne Gallagher, a busy day for you there. Enjoy your coffee. You certainly deserve it. We really appreciate your time here this morning.